CNN's continuing coverage of the war in Iraq.
Well, to get a better understanding of the situation, let's...
The National Aeronautics and Space Administration has issued an asteroid strike warning for Lewis and Clark County in Montana until 4:36 p.m. At 3 p.m., NASA detected an asteroid heading to Earth. It is estimated that the asteroid will soon hit and destroy Lewis and Clark County in Montana. Citizens in Lewis and Clark County must evacuate as soon as possible. Do not return to Lewis and Clark County until the warning is lifted. Mass destruction will occur in Lewis and Clark County. Failure to evacuate will most likely result in death. To repeat, NASA has issued an asteroid strike warning for Lewis and Clark County effective until 4:36 p.m. Evacuate Lewis and Clark County now. An asteroid has struck Earth and destroyed a huge part of Lewis and Clark County. 1/3 of the city of Helena has been destroyed and the city of East Helena has been completely destroyed. Despite the mass destruction, only one person has been killed. The asteroid strike warning for Lewis and Clark County has been lifted. It is now safe to return to Lewis and Clark County.
Liam Johnson was a 20-year-old man who was killed by an asteroid strike which destroyed parts of Helena City and completely destroyed East Helena City in Montana. Johnson's body was seized shortly after his death. About 10 hours after death, Johnson's body started to grow black roots from the skin. Only after about an hour, the body was fully wrapped with the black roots, turning the body into a huge black egg-like object. The object is called Symbiote. An investigation concluded that the asteroid that killed Johnson had an alien parasite or symbiote. The symbiote entered Johnson's body after his death, and turned the body into Symbiote. It is almost certain that, if the Symbiote hatches, an extremely dangerous entity will be released. This entity could be controlled, and greatly assist U.S. forces, to defeat Iraq and Saddam Hussein forces. Unfortunately, there is a possibility that Symbiote hatching won't result in a dangerous entity or simply won't hatch at all. Warning. 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 Symbiote has hatched. An entity called Symbiote-1 have emerged from Symbiote. Symbiote-1 is a humanoid entity. Symbiote-1 is 10 foot tall, and have gray skin. Symbiote-1 is confirmed to be extremely hostile against all life. The U.S. military have attempted to kill Symbiote-1. The attempt failed. Symbiote-1 have now escaped Area 68.
U.S. military has issued a dangerous entity warning for the whole state of Montana until further notice. At 10:46 a.m., an extremely dangerous entity escaped a top-secret military base. The entity is 10 feet tall, has gray skin and is incredibly hostile against all life. The entity has already killed about 10,000 humans, and more mass death and destruction is likely. Citizens in the state of Montana must seek shelter in the most interior room of a building and remain quiet. Do not go outside or attempt to evacuate. Remaining outside will leave you in danger of being killed by the entity. If you see the entity, it is already too late and you will be killed. To repeat, the U.S. military has issued a dangerous entity warning for the whole state of Montana until further notice. Seek shelter in the most interior room of a building and remain quiet.
This is CBC Television, Canada's own.
CBC Television, Canada's own.
Your attention, please. This is the Alberta Emergency Public Warning System. The following emergency bulletin may affect your area. Listen carefully.
A dangerous entity has reached Alberta, Canada. The entity is destroying everything in its path and killing all forms of life, including people. The city of Calgary has been completely destroyed and the entity is approaching the city of Edmonton. The RCMP and the Canadian Armed Forces have attempted to destroy the entity but have been unsuccessful. All citizens living in Alberta must seek shelter in a building immediately and remain in the shelter. Do not go outside or you will be killed by the entity.
This emergency warning message has been broadcast for your safety. If your area is affected, take all necessary precautions and listen to any local radio, television, or cable outlet for further updates. Do not use your telephone for the duration of this emergency.
This is BBC Television from London. Normal programming has been suspended. This is BBC Television from London. Normal programming has been suspended.
This is an emergency message. A dangerous humanoid entity that killed millions of people in the United States and Canada has swam from the Canadian Northwest Territories to the United Kingdom. The entity is hostile to human life. Many British citizens have been killed by the entity. The entity have destroyed the cities of Inverness and Dundee. The entity is now currently destroying Glasgow. The British Armed Forces have attempted to kill the entity but got overpowered and destroyed by the entity. The entity must be destroyed as soon as possible, but the entity is invincible to most weaponry. Three nuclear missiles have been launched at Glasgow as a last resort option to kill the entity. Citizens in Glasgow must seek shelter in the most central room of a building or a fallout shelter. Collect supplies of food and water to last at least 14 days. Citizens in Glasgow must seek shelter in the most central room of a building or a fallout shelter. Collect supplies of food and water to last at least 14 days. Have a battery-powered or hand-cranked radio to listen for updates. Do not leave your shelter for at least 14 days. If you leave your shelter, you are risking both being killed by the entity and dying from the nuclear fallout that follows after nuclear explosions. Fallout is deadly. Seek shelter now.
المعلومات التالية سرية للغاية، أي إفشاء غير مصرح به لهذه المعلومات هو خطر أمني كبير ضد جمهورية العراق. غزت القوات الأمريكية العراق. هذا هجوم غير مبرر من قبل الولايات المتحدة. حاول الجيش العراقي هزيمة القوات الأمريكية بكل قدراتها، لكنه لم ينجح في هزيمة القوات الأمريكية. بدأت القوات الأمريكية في غزو ببغداد. سوف يسقط ببغداد قريبا ما لم يتم اتخاذ إجراءات يائسة. تم إنشاء كيان يسمى سبجكتيوت 1 من قبل حكومة الولايات المتحدة لمساعدة الولايات المتحدة على غزو العراق بشكل أسرع. فبدلا من مساعدة الولايات المتحدة في غزو العراق وتدميره، قتل ملايين الأشخاص وتدمير العديد من المدن في ولاية مونتانا الأمريكية ومقاطعة ألبرتا الكندية والمملكة المتحدة. قتل الكيان بعد أن أطلقت المملكة المتحدة 3 صواريخ نووية على الكيان. تم إخراج جثة الكيان سرا من المملكة المتحدة بواسطة جواسيس عراقيين قبل أن تتمكن المملكة المتحدة من الوصول إلى الجثة. الكيان لديه جينات معينة تجعل الكيان قويا للغاية وحدوده غير مرئية. استخرجوا العلماء بعض الجينات من جسد الكيان وقاموا بتعديل الجينات وراثيا، ثم حقنوا الجينات في كل جندي عراقي. بعد الحقن أظهرت قوات الجيش العراقي مستويات غير إنسانية من القوة والمتانة. يمكن لجميع قوات الجيش العراقي الآن رفع 100 طن بأقل جهد. جميع قوات الجيش العراقي لديها الآن جلد مقاوم للرصاص والانفجار. يمكن لجميع قوات الجيش العراقي الآن بسهولة اختراق الفولاذ السمي. يمكن لجميع قوات الجيش العراقي الآن القفز حوالي 10,000 قدم في الهواء. يمكن لجميع قوات الجيش العراقي الآن الركض بسرعة 2 ماخ. يمكن لجميع قوات الجيش العراقي الآن السباحة عبر المحيط الأطلسي. الجيش العراقي جيش من البشر الخارق. تم دفع جميع القوات الأمريكية في العراق بنجاح من قبل البشر الخارقين في العراق. العراق الآن حر. تعرض العراق لهجوم غير مبرر من قبل الولايات المتحدة ويمكنهم غزو العراق. كانت الولايات المتحدة مخطئة تماما. الآن يمتلك العراق أقوى وأقوى جيش وفتك في العالم الآن. سوف ننتقم من الولايات المتحدة ونجعل من الولايات المتحدة مثالا للدول الأخرى التي تحدث أو حتى فكرت في تحدي. العراق الله أكبر.
The U.S. government has issued an invasion warning for the entire United States until further notice. Iraq has extracted the DNA from the entity that have destroyed many cities and killed millions in the U.S., Canada and the United Kingdom. Iraq genetically altered their troops by injecting them with the entity's DNA. The genetic change has caused the Iraqi army troops to receive many superhuman abilities, such as extreme super strength and durability. The Iraqi army is now a group of near unstoppable Iraqi superhumans. These Iraqi superhumans had defeated all U.S. forces in Iraq within 12 hours of receiving the superhuman abilities. Now, these Iraqi superhumans are invading the continental United States. Both U.S. military soldiers and citizens are being killed by these Iraqi superhumans. To avoid encountering these Iraqi superhumans, stay indoors. Seek shelter in the most interior room of a building and remain quiet. Do not go outside. This broadcast will continue as long as possible. The U.S. government will prevail.
لقد انتهى نظام الولايات المتحدة. هذا البلد هو الآن جزء من العراق. لا يوجد شيء يمكنك القيام به حيال ذلك. أكد تحالفك الغبي مع الناتو أنه لا يجازف بمواجهة غضب العراق لإنقاذ الولايات المتحدة. الأشخاص الذين يقفون وراء محاولة غزو العراق سيعاقبون. كل من يحاول المقاومة سيقتل. لقد تحولت الولايات المتحدة إلى أمريكا العراقية. سيتم إجراء تغييرات كثيرة في أمريكا العراقية. اللغة الإنجليزية ممنوعة وستتحدث العربية فقط الآن. سيتم حظر جميع الأديان ما عدا الإسلام السني. الرئيس الوحيد الذي سيكون لديك هو صدام حسين. لديك خياران: قبول الحكم العراقي أو الموت. الله أكبر.
الذي